Earlier today, Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket said as soon as Democrats take over, they're going after President Trump's entire family and they will impeach him. Joy Reid and others are calling for Melania Trump and the entire Trump family to be deported. We've got stuff going on with ICE and Gavin Newsom, lies of the mainstream media to humiliate and embarrass Trump, and other stories. To help me go through all this, I have Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Jovan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So Jovan has his own show. I will make sure to put a link down below to that. 7 days a week, he puts out 2 shows that are just packed with incredible information. Jovan, you understand the American election system better than anyone. You understand the fraud better than anyone. One of the things that has really opened my eyes lately is with all of these illegals here, it's really affected how many seats the Democrats have.
That's right.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has briefed Trump on this idea of immediately redoing the U.S. Census for American citizens only. What would that do to change the voting system? What would that do to change the House of Representatives and to change the United States?
Most of the swell in the census does have to do with the illegal population. Going into the 2020 election, there was an estimate that there might be about 20 million of illegals in the U.S. and ironically on our voting rolls. During the Biden administration, that swelled another 8 to 10 million, so there may be 30 million, and they're on our voting list, but more nefariously, they're on our census. You would think the census, the U.S. Census, would have everything to do with true American citizen population and representation based upon the numbers of your U.S. citizens. A long time ago, the system figured out how to tweak it, and they bring more people into an area and flood them in, because what it does is it changes the census count and they get another seat in the House or sometimes several more. The only way to truly get rid of that erroneous representation, because we're not here to represent people that broke our laws to get here. Remember, I'm first generation American. My own mother had to go through the process to become an American citizen. I understand it quite well. But we shouldn't be rewarding people that come to our country illegally. But see, that's one of the funky loopholes. Just like Doge found 15 million people over the age of 112 drawing Social Security, and it was all a scam. The same thing with the census. If we were to go in and scrub the census, and the only way you can scrub it is to redo it, but do not count your illegals or foreign nationals that don't have their citizenship, and we actually made the representation back on that, you're going to find some of these states that wag, the flyover states and conservative states, are going to lose seats because they've synthetically built them up. I think from a true rule of law and governing for the people, by the people, for the true people of the United States of America who are citizens, she's dead on. That's the only way to do it. And if we could do that hand in hand by purging them off the voter rolls, I think we would have far better politicians in office than we have today. So she's bang on.
Okay. Is there a process? I don't know if you know this answer, but I'm just openly admitting I don't. Does Congress have to approve redoing the census? Is that something the president does or an executive order? I know it's done every so many years, but if they don't rewrite the rules around what questions they ask, we're not going to get to the true results.
It all goes to the questions. I can use DMV as a way to kind of give you how this works. When an illegal comes across the border, our government tells them you've got to get an ID. So when they come across the border and they go to DMV to get an ID, nefariously they linked voting to it as motor voter, and so they're automatically giving that person dropping them into the registration file and giving them basically a voter ID card. When it comes to the census, and ironically, a lot of these rules, they'll break them, they'll bend them by doing these little like motor voter hacks. That's why I told you that. But for the census, that comes down to our Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. That's what basically mandates that we do a census every 10 years. Now, it's Congress that has to do with passing the laws on it. They can modify, if they want, they can modify the frequency, they can modify the funding amount for it, and they have the power to revive what is called the Census Bureau Authority. Maybe it's one of these things that has to be cleaned up like other agencies, rehauled like FEMA or whatever. But when it comes to the designs of it, it's the Census Bureau itself that designs it. Even though it's not really written into law, it doesn't really have an oversight. And even though in President Trump's previous administration, he wanted to put on the census way back then, you have to acknowledge that you are a U.S. citizen. They didn't put it on. They didn't get it put on. Now, I don't know why they didn't get it put on. And just like anything else, these courts block these things. The courts can intervene and say that is an appropriate question or is not an appropriate question. The one that pushes down the paperwork, though, let's say the Census Bureau, let's say there is some oversight, but let's say the Census Bureau rigs the questions to try to stay away from this shining a light on how many are illegals. It is the Office of Management and Budget that actually approves everything. And I think through that, with budgetary controls, we should do like anything else that President Trump's doing with Doge or anything. You have to account for it. It has to be right for what's for the people. But yes, coming down to that simple piece of paper can make every difference in the world. But we got to have enforcement behind it. In the driver's license bureau, the way they do it is they expect the person getting the driver's license to check, oh, I am an illegal, which means the default of not checking it basically confirms you are a citizen. That's kind of what's called a negative option thing.
Okay.
And you can dismiss over it. I don't think we should have negative options. It should be, here is my testament. I am an American citizen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that has to be filled in as part of it. Of course, just like anything else, they'll fight it. They'll say it's too cumbersome, it's too onerous or whatever. But if we just hold to our backbones that we are America first and we want to do what's right for America, which should be the rule, I think there are many ways to get it done. And it's a very wise idea, and it's a long time in coming.
They'll play the race card right out of the gate. You can't expect people to identify that, even though the government makes you identify. Are you a Caucasian? Are you a Black?
That's
are you
right.
Asian descent? So yeah, but that negative, that's interesting. Well, the reason that I'm so concerned about this is obviously, you have lived through elections and election fraud and the denial of that and the rejection in court and holding the evidence and all of that. I don't need to repeat it, but if we don't win, we're not going to have the country that we want.
That's right.
And you now have Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket saying that if they get back in, they're going to not only impeach Trump, they're going to go after his entire family. Let's watch this and then we'll react.
If the Democrats take over after the midterms next year, the House and or Senate, do you think they're going to push for investigations into Trump's family and the whole crypto acquisitions that he is getting?
Well, Alex, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, here we go.
Listen, so long as we end up taking the House, which I fully anticipate that we will do, and we are going to work hard to obviously help our Senate colleagues as well, then as someone who serves on the Oversight Committee and hopes to lead the Oversight Committee, I can guarantee you that we will do what we are supposed to do as constitutionally sworn members of the House, which means that we will conduct oversight. That means that we will investigate. We will look at whether or not this president himself has violated the emoluments clause as it relates to, say, such things as getting a $400 million plane from the Qataris. We also will make sure that we're looking into all these business deals that they have going on. I mean, think about it this way, Alex, they were going after Hunter because he sat on a board. Think about how much money they are raking in, whether we're talking about the next golf resort that they're setting up in Qatar, or whether we're talking about them leveling Gaza, as they've talked about how it would be great beachfront property, whether we're talking about this crypto scam, the scam that people didn't even want to walk into and show their faces. Let me tell you, there is no shortage of things for us to dig into and determine whether or not there have been not only violations of the law, but definitely violations of our Constitution as a whole.
Your reaction to Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket?
Well, they'll always float. It's just true. They'll always float the simple idiot first because they're expendable. And what they're looking for is what catches on virally or in public sentiment. That's how they're using her as it is. So it's interesting you say this, and you asked about the census, because it does have a direct correlation, 100% direct correlation. They know that President Trump means business. They 100% know that President Trump means business. And it's like I had said earlier, President Trump tried to add a citizenship question to the census. He's already tried to do it. So they know that's on his agenda. The courts shot it down under the auspice that it was too contrived and you can't really do it. But you also have to remember the president can't change it, but he can swing a bat by adding, appointing the Secretary of Commerce to oversee it. Now, here's what she's talking about. And don't think she's making idle threats, because she is not making idle threats. I talked about this in January when we saw the counting go on in all these states. In some places, they went on for 60 days. I want to remind people, I've just told you that we know we've got 30 some odd million bad voting records on there, right? And it's a conversation I had with President Trump saying, sir, you just got to wipe away the whole voter rolls, because that's the only way we're going to clean it up. But for historical purposes, start out this way. There are 30 million bad people on the voter rolls that we need to clean up and get away. And if they can get a ballot, that means the system, overprinting, getting them out, they're going to get voted. If we went back to Obama's first term, he had 69 million popular votes. When it came to his second term, now, and he was supposed to be their rock star, right? He was supposed to be their almighty rock star of whatever. His second term, he got 65 million votes. Hillary versus Trump, Hillary got 65 million votes. And then here comes Biden. Biden shot out of nowhere with 81 million votes. Now, why you need to pay attention to that is because Kamala, too, come close of election this past time, got only 68 million votes. But from election close to this day, right now, under the radar, because all that fluff's there, they have raised Kamala's number to 75 million. Literally, you can look it up yourself. You can go look at election results. But on election night, when everything was called, she was at 68 million and change votes. Now she's just shy of 75 million. Now, here's why that's important. I believe, yes, people got out and voted. But I also believe the system knew Trump was going to win. So what they focused on was the down ticket. I told people in January, think of when you're seeing this right now. I told people in January, here's my prediction. Trump's going to do all these executive orders. And remember, executive order only lasts as long as the president's in office. They're going to take the House in the midterms 26. And as soon as they take the House in the midterms 26, because it takes the House to do it, they are going to re-bring impeachment charges against President Trump. And this time, based on what they learned and their positioning, the new thing coming out will be the emoluments clause. Now, why that becomes exceptionally dangerous is because Joaquin Jeffries is bragging about it. He's been bragging about it for months. They're going to take the midterms. One of the things that concerns me is this gift from Qatar of a $400 some odd million presidential jet. They will try to spin that was a gift under the emoluments clause. So I'm telling you right now, I believe they're going to do it. We're going to go through this impeachment crap again. They are going to take the House because the Republicans were feckless and did nothing about it. Nothing got closed in election integrity that should have been fixed. And it's because our uniparty, we don't have two parties, our uniparty does not want Donald Trump in there at all. Look at how much money has been found wasted with USAID. Mitch McConnell, supposedly a conservative, $140 million came his way. For what? The system's broken. And so what she's saying is part of the application of psychological warfare, and it's double-edged. They are letting President Trump know what they're going to do. And he sees it coming. He knows it's coming. At the same time, they're getting people ready and their ears for hearing it. You're going to keep on hearing the rhetoric. You're going to keep on hearing the rhetoric. So by the time it does come up, you're going to believe they legitimately won because they crapped in your cranium all this time, convincing you they were going to win the House. When in fact, they're going to pull the triggers on a lot of these bad voters and they're going to use it. And it will give them the power to absolutely begin the impeachment process of President Trump. Now, we're so close in the Senate that the Senate could flip within one or two people. That makes it dangerous because the House decides to do it. The Senate is the one that has to prosecute it. I'm kind of alarmed at how many senators are stepping down. I think there's some strong arming going on, saying you need to get out of politics. We need to get one of our guys in. And there may be, I don't know, maybe some big payoffs to get some of these people to step down. But I think there's a very real chance, not authentically, but they may take the Senate. And if that's the case, what they're doing is they're trying to play a little bit of a psychological warfare. Now, there is a good statistical chance, not legitimate, but a good statistical chance they're going to do it. And this is how they warn President Trump. Don't mess with us. Don't ask questions. Just go along, or we're going to make it hell on your family even more. And that's how the game's played. Literally how the game's played. I think President Trump's wired differently. I'm not sure some of his children are wired the same way that dad is, but I know he's wired to play to win. And one of the things he can do to play to win is get the census stuff done, get some of these cut out to reduce that artificial stronghold they have on all of us.
Wow. I didn't realize that they were still counting votes. Do you think that was to not only set us up and dump in our craniums, as you mentioned, but crap in our craniums, but they wanted every single number to say, well, he's not that popular.
Right.
Or, those missing votes that those crazy right wingers say, where did those go? They were there. It just took a little bit of time to bring them out and put them on the rolls. The
data caught manipulation. If you were to look at 2 terms of Obama, one of Hillary, and then Biden, and it was a hand, that Biden sticking up there is like the middle finger going, screw you. It just looks, you can't miss it. I'm telling you, if we were think of a hand, it just goes boom and flips you the bird. They knew they got caught. However, so that to reduce the risk of it still being that exaggeratedly wild alien finger sticking up with 81 million votes. What they've done in order to try to legitimize them is padding those votes and certifying them up, adding more to make sure there were multiple votes from those people that voted in 2020. And so we will have 4 elections since Biden. So you got Biden in a midterm, right? We got Trump in, you got the last one where Biden won, you've got 2 midterms in his presidency, then he lost. And then you've got 1 general and 2 midterms or another midterm by the time we get to the next round. So what they're really doing is backfilling all those bad votes that the uniparty did not scrub. And it's going to give them a certain amount of legitimacy. Why? Because they can make them vote in all of those midterms since then and another general, and it will make them look valid, like they're a consistent repeating voter when they're not. So there's a lot of baking going on in this oven.
Excuse me.
Yes, I would choke over it too. It's that bad.
Yeah. I apologize. Yeah. It's
I have
It's
a graphic if you want to see it. I have a great graphic I can show
oh
you.
yeah.
I don't know if I can. Am I able to present that from my screen?
Oh, you're much smarter with technology than I am.
Okay, well, here you go. Let's see if I can. Window here. Let me show you this graphic. You'll have to put it in whenever you put it in.
Remove the media. Oh, okay. Let me remove that. Let me add that. Okay, there we go.
There it is. I think I can probably pump it up a little in size. Let me show you this. Look, the last time I pinged it, here's the deal. Obama had, in 2008, he had 69 million votes. Then he had 65. He went down in popularity. That was not a valid election. Hillary had 65. Of course, Trump won. Then you see how bad they had to wag the system. And then, of course, Trump beat Kamala at 68. That red line is how many more they've added just since then. That is all synthetic. But they had to try to control that gap. Well, she had 75 million and Biden had 81. That just shows how popular they were. It's all a con. We could have dealt with this, but the uniparty would not allow this to be dealt with because it's truly where they get their control from. And so I put this out a while back, done it several times. Pay attention. It's the midterms. That's where the battle's going to come down again.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, let me move on to something that's bothering me. The mainstream media continues to try to make a mountain out of every single molehill. The newest one is just happening right now. ICE goes in, they're looking for illegal immigrants in California. They continue to fight back. They go up to this farm. They find underage children working, some of them with no parents, some of them not on payroll. And the media, they're putting out that this is Trump raiding farms. Let me add that. Raiding farms here, harassing farmers, going after the farmers, disrupting the food supply, Southern California farmers. And in reality, it was a marijuana farm.
Mm-hmm.
So why are underage kids with no parents working for low wages under the table? And why are they on a marijuana farm? And then why doesn't the media do just a little bit of homework and say, this isn't a food supply. This is literally marijuana drugs on a farm. It's all on purpose, of course.
Yes. What people don't realize, let's take the state of Oklahoma, the United States of America's largest legal cannabis crops. Some of the biggest holders there that are running those farms are owned by the Chinese government. That's number one. It's kind of the hush hush, don't talk about it, right? But one of the largest growers of cannabis in the United States is out of the Chinese government. Now, what's going on, you have to understand, part of the child trafficking that goes on has so very little to do with they're there as a sex object. Yes, that's one part of it, and that's horrible. However, a large majority of these children are imported slave labor right here in the United States. You know, everybody screams about slavery, but right now we're not doing anything about it. And statistically, in the United States of America, we have more slaves right now enslaved in America that we ever had during the Civil War. And it's kind of taboo to talk about it. We've got 400,000 minors known in the United States to be working in the agricultural sector. We know that, hands down. And that's kind of where a lot of this fighting's going on and loopholes in the labor laws. We've got kids as young as 12 working unlimited hours in the field. And so a lot of this unaccompanied minors that are coming across our border, everybody tends to kind of knee jerk really quick and look at what we should in sex trafficking, but they're actually slaves, farm labor slaves. That doesn't even account for the children of 880,000 children that are known children of these migrant families who are working. 140,000 of these kids that we know work in agriculture that are between 12 and 17 live with somebody who's not even their parent. I think a while back there was like a raid. I think it focused on the meat processing plants and the poultry farms. Now, this was done in 23. In that raid, there were 4,000 child slaves rounded up. Nobody ever talks about what happened to them, but they were identified and rounded up in 23. And so this is kind of the ugliest of the ugliest. It's illegal cash crops. We tend to get indignant about Nike shoes because they're, China and they use slave labor, but it happens right here on our soil. The system protects them by saying, well, they've fled their country and they're leaving worse conditions. No, they just came to a country where there's more money to keep them in slavery. And it's taboo to talk about. And right now they're saying they'll find the one person. And I'll use this example for you, and it's the easiest way to understand it. And I'll go back to an election example. When you vote with a mail-in ballot, right? And it goes into the mail and it comes in, they scan for the signature on the back of the ballot, and then they separate the ballot and the envelope, and they go two different directions. From that point, they never know who that ballot was voted by. You follow me? Because in the United States of America, we have what's called secret balloting. Now, let me quiz you something here. In Arizona, I'll use the 2020 election, they actually arrested and convicted a woman for voting her dead mother's ballot. Now, the question I have to ask you, it was a mail-in ballot. They don't check the death rolls in Maricopa to take them off the death rolls. In fact, it's the responsibility of the family to remove a dead person from the rolls, not the county. And if that ballot got separated out and it was in the system and counted because she voted, how did they know who it was? What I think really happens here, and that's a prime example, they'll find somebody, probably has a criminal record. They'll play like they did this so they can parade them around, get a conviction, get it expunged later, and probably write them a big check. Now, why do they do that? Because there's 2.5 million voters in Maricopa County. But they found one case where somebody voted dead mama's ballot. Look, there's voter fraud. We caught it, but look how minimal it is. I think the same psychological warfare goes on when they're raiding these places, when they hold up people that get caught up in these dragnets or otherwise to make it look like they're doing their jobs. And they always hold the sample here. Now, it works both ways. The left will always find the most horrible example they can find. Well, he's been here for 23 years as a migrant worker and he's got anchor kids, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is against the law is against the law. But I've often wondered, how do they find these things? How do they find these unique people? And it's because they know where they are. And it's so sinister that they can tell us every undocumented, every illegal, and there's differences in them, every green card worker, and even listen to me, I fight this thing every day, and I just uttered undocumented. It makes me sick, but that's how much it can hammer in your head. They're illegal. They know where they are. But those agencies don't talk together because they're being imported here as cheap labor, slavery, packing the census, packing the voter rolls, and in turn, it enslaves every one of us.
Whew. Well said. Sad, but well said. Okay, I just want to wrap up this Gavin Newsom thing, and the mainstream media is giving him cover while trying to humiliate Trump and Tom Homan. They're saying that Trump and ICE, they're causing violence, and it's causing mental illness and hardship on people in California. But let me go ahead and show you what ICE was dealing with. And then they have the audacity to say that Trump and his goons are the ones causing chaos. Let me bring this up. So they're leaving, just hucking huge boulders, blocking the way. Right there, smashed window. I mean, one of them comes through, nearly takes off the back of a guy's head. And yet somehow Trump is the one causing the violence. He's causing these people to have to almost kill ICE agents. I mean, just all the property damage, and hopefully they'll go in and, find these people like they did with some of the LA riot stuff. But I get so tired of them lying to us, gaslighting us, giving cover. I mean, the mainstream media, it's insane. We don't hate the media enough. I see that sometimes on X, and I'm like, that's a little bit crazy. And then I see stories like this or the LA riots, and I go, yeah, you're right. Like, they are so determined and clever to spin things to make Trump and MAGA and conservatives and God-fearing and nuclear family-focused people look like the mean, crazy one. I don't know.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we got to go back to Obama. Obama, during his administration, did one very subtle thing, and he repealed and redid what's called the Smith-Mundt Act, M-U-N-D-T, Smith-Mundt Act. In the United States heretofore, if a reporter reported crap, fake news, it was actually against the law. They could be prosecuted for it. During the Obama administration, one of the things he did is he changed that, which allowed our government to do two things: not prosecute reporters for reporting fake news, and to actually incent reporters and the media companies, meaning pay them to report fake news. That's what President Trump was telling you when he said fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. One of the ways you can understand that this advent was real, that it was a con, is think about when Elon exposed USAID and how much money was going to the television networks. And the moment the Trump administration shut that down, did you ever notice how many people lost their contracts, like Joy Reid and others? It's because USAID money was paying for it. Now put a pin in that for a moment. What that did is that weaponized or perfected the weaponization of our media for our media to become an asset of the government in psychological warfare. Now, what you just showed and talked about is actually a very well-known war tactic, and it's called psychological manipulation tactics, otherwise known as DARVO, DARVO. Here's how it works. And once you know this acronym, you can look at it and you will understand when you are being attacked, whether it's an individual or a group like Christians or whatever, you will see it for what it is. So DARVO, first off, they deny, DARVO. The very perpetrators, in this case, the people throwing the rocks, and the media support them, George Floyd, all this stuff, they deny that they have any wrongdoing or anything bad in their behavior. That's the D in DARVO. The A then is attack. So they deny they did wrong, even though they're burning and trying to get reparations on that stuff. And what they do is they turn around and attack, and they claim that, oh, wait a minute, it's, in this case, Trump's fault. It's the police fault. The police did it. So they begin this discrediting and blaming behavior. And then the last part of that psychologically is it's called RVO, the reverse victim and offender. They flip those two roles. And so what happens in the flipping of this script, the actual offender presents themselves as, well, no, we're really the true victim. And then they paint the actual victim as the aggressor. Well, it wouldn't happen if they were doing this. And so that's psychological warfare. That's DARVO. And that's exactly what's going on. And I've taught a lot of this. And when you understand how this works and you understand these acronyms and you understand it is a psychological warfare tool, what you saw in that video were all crimes. And frankly, if I was a police chief or sheriff there, I'd be throwing those perps to the ground and locking them up. Doesn't matter if everybody's screaming, but it's also why they got rid of, true enforcers like Joe Aparo, right? Got rid of them because they can't have this stuff. This is the world we live in now. Now, what they need is they need people to only look at headlines, only believe what they can read in 140 characters or less, and accept that as absolute truth. And that's part of the apathy that got us here. We've been trained not to dig. The number one weapon or cure we have against this is knowledge, exactly what we're doing here. Once you can see it and you can identify it and you can understand what their payoff was and why they would do it, and you learn how to identify these things, then you never become a victim of it again. Then you have a responsibility. You need to teach people these things. You need to help them, set them free, understand this is DARVO, this is why they do it. To you, in common sense and ethics and morals, it makes no sense. That's stupid. They're not the victims. But eventually, with the repeating of it, it will grab a hold in mass and it becomes the fait accompli. It becomes what the story is. We need more people to understand the truth so we can push back, because the only cure is us, truth and knowledge.
I'll give you two examples. They're not from America, but I read these recently. They really bothered me. And this is the police and the government using DARVO. But the police got a complaint in England that there were two underage girls drunk, that they were on the street drunk, right? So they go. It turns out that they were in a house with like 7 or 8 Pakistani men that were violating them. I don't want to use the R word, but violating them. And the police arrested the girls for being drunk.
Right. And defended the illegals.
Yes.
That it wasn't their fault. Grown men, underage girls.
And I just saw another one where a foreigner, our words, a girl, and he goes to jail for just over a year, but she goes to jail for almost 3 years for writing about our story on Facebook.
And then her mother goes to jail for making a comment about how that was unjust, and they arrested the mother.
Oh, you saw the story then. Oh my gosh.
This is the tactic. It's many things. It's not only psychological warfare, and chills just go down my spine. It's to beat you into submission. That's all it is. It's the hammer of submission. And they've got to make what's wrong right. They got to change the optics. But this is the war. We are in World War III, and we have been for a very long time. But the tactics, the styles, the weapons are different. They're not conventional warfare, so people tend to ignore it. Well, it's not going to affect me. Yes, it has. Yes, it will. And what you see happening in the UK has come to our shores. It's coming here. They tried to do it with fact checking. They tried to do it with thought police. But what you see going on in the UK now, if you don't wake up and accept, you're not going to get anything out of a lawmaker. You've got to get it out of you. And that means talking and getting it out, not going burning down buildings and that crap, but talking and educating people to identify it, because that's the inoculation. We can't wait for politicians to do it. We have to upgrade. We've been asleep too long. But all of this is classic warfare. All of it is classic warfare, and it's been going on for a very, very long time. And if we were to go back to the Cold War, during the Cold War, the Russians used to have a saying: there is no truth in the news, and there is no news in the truth, which is where we get this "if it bleeds, it leads" mentality, because we're always looking for the train wreck, and they've taught us to expect the train wreck. And therefore, the Russians were right. We got groomed. There is no news, right? No truth in the news, and there is no news in the truth. And that's where we live today, full time.
Wow. While you were explaining the Smith-Mundt situation with Obama, I looked it up. They actually buried it within an NDAA military contract. That's how they got it through. Oh, the government, we couldn't pass this with a small, beautiful bill or a single voter bill. We had to bury it in renewing military contracts so that the government could lie and manipulate you legally.
That's right. And that's, again, it's short attention span theater. It's also why they resulted to Obamacare. Well, after we vote on the bill and approve it, then you can read and see what's in it. It's a con. We accepted it. You got to understand, this is not about the lawmakers. Expect them to be bad, expect them to be bought off. But if you don't stand up for your country and you don't actually read these things and you don't understand how it works, that's how it keeps happening. We paved this road because we bought the training and the drivel they pushed to us through television sets and advertisements. And here we are.
Yeah. All right. Let me end on a positive note here. For the first time in 20 years, the government has a monthly surplus, $27 billion, thanks to the Trump tariffs. For the first time in over 20 years, a Republican has won the popular vote. So Trump, he knows he's up against a lot. We know he's up against a lot. But this is a major win. If they can continue to do this, now he has that bill out of the way. It's not a perfect bill, but that bill is out of the way. Now I hope that they'll continue to focus on it. But this was a huge deal. Shocking surplus for the first time in 20 years. Your thoughts on that?
That shows you how much even more money we were bleeding and hemorrhaging because we ran this like a nonprofit who grew money on trees instead of a business like President Trump does. Think about how much money we still had going out the door we found with USAID. In other words, that surplus would have never been there, but it would have gone to the pockets of some very bad people, both inside our country and outside our country. He's doing what's right. And that is why this is so dangerous, so volatile, why they're willing to go after his kids. They want to destroy everything he touches, why they tried to kill them. But the only thing that keeps me grounded in all of this is, you know, that with a crack of a rifle with a subsonic bullet, that bullet travels fast. But to have that motion in time where that bullet clipped President Trump's ear, I think was a sign from God. It definitely was divine intervention, that it won't be easy. It will draw blood. It may cleave a lot of us as it cleaved his ear. But if we stand strong and we are factual and deal only with facts and educated and dig and refuse to do all the stuff we used to do being apathetic, we'll get through this.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to end it on that. What a great way to end it. Jovan, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to catch your show, follow you online, where can I push them?
/ almost anywhere, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, Jovan Hutton, Hutton, Pulitzer, Pulitzer. On X, I'm Jovan H. Pulitzer, simply because I've been through many iterations of accounts. But you'll always see my lovely mug, except for my Facebook, which Facebook allowed to be stolen with 100,000 followers. And now you see recipes out of India, and Facebook won't do anything to stop it because they don't want me to broadcast there. But I'm working hard at it. So if you see muffins and cheesecakes in my face, it got hijacked.
I mean, I know you've written some books about farming and food, but this is probably someone in India that's stolen your identity. And
yes, they have.
Oh my gosh.
And Facebook doesn't do a thing because they do not want me broadcasting. I had to rebuild there many times. And when you have a reach like that, Facebook just politely ignores it. We're dealing with it, but we haven't made headway.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And then what about your show 7 days a week? Where can people catch that?
They can catch me on Rumble. It's rumble.com/Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. The program is called Cut the Crap. Why? Because you want to grab these politicians and say, cut the crap. The crap stands for culture, race, and American politics. And what I try to bring you is factual stuff with solutions each time. And I'm not for very short shows. I do much longer shows than most because I teach you. Think of it as an advanced PhD when you get into it. But you can find me at rumble.com/Jovan Hutton Pulitzer 7 days a week, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. I give that to you in Central Standard Time because it's kind of like the lottery roll, 777, because we're all lucky to be here together. And our jackpot is knowledge. We'll do it if we work together.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir.